and welcome back to Book March Madness. My name is Lee, and I will be your ref for this competition. I have a sneeze. Wee! That was a big one. Things have been going really well. I'm really excited. The Classics bracket was released a few days ago, and since then we have a lot of people who have suggested titles that they want to be a part of the competition. Unfortunately, as of now, the suggesting titles form for the Classics bracket is now closed. So all of those, not all of them, the one title that had the most votes will be announced on the 13th when we have our selection Sunday and announce the rankings and seedings of all of the titles in each genre. So you'll have to stay tuned on the 13th to find out which participant suggested title made it to the Classics bracket. This video is another introduction video to our mystery thriller bracket. I will say, before I introduce you to these titles, I don't read a lot of mystery thrillers. This is probably the genre that I am least versed in terms of really even exposure to the titles that are on here. Very few of them have I read or listened to. This is the genre that I will probably be most fascinated to watch because I feel like some of these newer authors in this genre have such a cult following. But I also know that the authors of the champion literature that have been around for a while also had a cult following. It's a reason why they're still lauded literature today. So I'd be curious to see how they do compared to one another. Just like the Classics bracket, there are 8 champions and 8 rookies, and this bracket, along with the remaining 2, the rookies are based on Goodreads award. So without further ado, let's get on to meeting the mystery thriller bracket. Just like the Classics, we'll start with the champions. These are some big titles, big authors, big reputations, so we will see how they do in this competition. I mean, we have to start with the queen herself. If we're gonna have a competition including mysteries, Miss Agatha Christie has to be included right away. She's always my go-to. She is probably the author that I have read or experienced the most of, and this title, And Then There Were None, is debatably her most popular. I don't want to say best because I have a few others that I like more, but the most well-known or liked title, And Then There Were None. She's a big one, and I happen to know where they're ranked already, and it will be very interesting to me to see how this fares against what it is placed with. Next, we have a title and an author that I am not familiar with, but this is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. I have never read anything by them. I have never even heard of them, but on many of the lists that I was looking up, this author was sprinkled throughout, and they seem to have a very staunch following, so I'm curious to see whether an oldie but a goodie will uphold itself amongst all of the other new releases. Next, we have what I would probably consider to be a modern day mystery thriller. It certainly has a wide reputation. Emily Blunt was in the movie. That is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I have seen the trailer for the movie. I've never watched it. I've never read the book, but I know that this did the rounds on BookTube and on Goodreads, and it's a widely applauded novel, so I'm curious to see how it does. This, we dug way deep into the archives for this one, and this is The Postman Always Rings Twice by James N. Cain. I want to say it's been made into more than one movie, but I could be wrong about that. It's also a play. This is probably, it's an odd hybrid. There's a little bit of romance in there, as well as, obviously, the mystery thriller aspect, and this is probably the one that I'm most curious to see if people even know about. But it is a widely beloved book, highly acclaimed, so I'm curious to see how it does. So if we have Her Majesty Agatha Christie, we have to have His Majesty Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with The Hound of the Baskervilles, one of the many Sherlock Holmes stories. Again, I could have picked from however many there are, but this one probably is one of his most popular, or more popular, I should say. Again, Agatha Christie and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle are the 2 big, heavy-hitting authors that I'm thinking will probably dominate for a while until it gets down to the nitty-gritty voting. So my eyes are on both of those. Again, much like Girl on the Train, we have another modern champion within like the last 10 years or so, and that is In the Woods by Tana French. I see her a lot. I think she had a pretty recent release, year or 2 or 3 ago. Again, I've never read anything by her, but she is widely talked about as an incredible cliffhanger writer, and I think she 100% deserves a place in this champion category. Next, we went back into the archives, and this one I was excited about because I've seen this book make a resurgence in being read, and I don't know if it's because there was a movie made recently. For whatever reason, that's why I think it had a resurgence. I may be incorrect. But this is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I'm so excited because this one has actually been on my like Pinterest TBR, which is like my virtual TBR when I don't have my physical books on my shelf. It's what I'm going to read next, but this one has been on my radar for a while to read, just because I love the sort of rumor ghost haunting aspect, and I love things like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights, where it's sort of ethereal with a little bit of a dark sort of conspiracy. The summary of this also reminded me of Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Very similar. I read that for my Halloween read with me last year, so I'm excited to see how this one does as well, given that it's sort of made a comeback recently. And next, I had to pick a big title that was not only a well-beloved novel, but also a massive movie, and that is Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. I am not one for scary movies. I don't do well with scary, particularly if I'm by myself, particularly at night. So I have never seen this movie. I know a lot of people say that this really isn't like horror movie scary, but it's a thriller, and my heart beats real fast. But this one, again, this type of movie, let alone book, has such a wide fan base, and so I'm wondering whether the fact that it is such a popular movie is going to make people vote for it simply based on that fact. Next, we move on to the rookies. I have heard of most of these, mostly because of my Book Page magazine subscription, but also because of watching BookTube and seeing people read these on Bookstagram. I knew most of these in October because a lot of people were reading these in spooky season. So yeah, I'm excited to introduce you to these rookies. This is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I love the concept of this book where literally the tagline that says in the picture, "You'd kill to be on it." I think it's a bunch of friends who go up sort of like a reunion, and one gets murdered, and eventually it's kind of like a you're next situation. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. But this one sounds really interesting, very dark. A lot of people have been saying that she is akin to Agatha Christie in terms of her very clear writing style, but also like keeps you gripped, and there are so many plot twists, and it sort of leaves you hanging. And so she's the only one really that I've heard that comparison being made to. So I'm curious to see how she does. Next, we have an NYT bestseller. A lot of these have cleared that hurdle, which is great. We love to see new NYT bestsellers. But this is The Lost Man by Jane Harper. It is about three brothers, and one ends up dead, and then it's sort of the mystery surrounding the discovery of what happened to that younger brother. Are the other brothers involved? That's really all I know. Again, I haven't read all of these, so if there's anything you want to add in terms of description or clarification, feel free to comment it down below. Next, we have a big author. She is huge right now, and I know that she has a lot of dedicated fans, and this is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I have seen her everywhere. Particularly when this book came out, it exploded. And I'm excited to see whether, because she has such a staunch following, whether it will overtake something like Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle in terms of popularity and likability. Next, we have a title that I wasn't necessarily aware of until I saw it in my Book Page subscription, and a few people review it on Bookstagram, and that is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This cover is gorgeous. I love that in the reflection of her sunglasses you can see someone holding a massive knife. I don't know what it is about knives, but it gets me. It looks so creepy and so good. I'm assuming this is told from the perspective of the other sister. Again, I don't know a whole lot about it, just from what other people have told me. So again, because I don't know this book really well, I'm excited to see how it does. Next, we have one that I have actually read. This is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I won this the ARC edition in a giveaway however many months ago now. And I have to say, it was not my favorite. The story concept is exceptional, and I love the emphasis on gentrification. I read it as part of my education process over the past year as a result of the events of last spring and summer, but I didn't like the ending, and I don't know if that was changed in the actual full publication, but I thought the ending fell a little flat compared to the sort of momentum of the rest of the book. That is my own personal opinion, so please don't feel offended or change your vote simply because of what I say. But I know a lot of people love this book, and I agree with them that the most of it is exceptional. I've never really read anything quite like it. It was really the first sort of thriller exposure I had had. There is an incredible mixed media method of writing in here that I love. They have something like the Nextdoor app called Our Hood app in this area of Brooklyn, and it adds like an underlying level of tension that just sort of simmers in the background in between all of the chapters between the two main characters. I'm giving you this summary. You can go look it up for yourself, but because I have read this, I have also an invested interest in this to see if it will last long. So next, we have another hugely popular cult following author, and that is Riley Sager with Home Before Dark. This one took the cover page of my book page magazine in last October, I think it was, when it came out, and this book is huge. People are talking about it. They love him. This was such a gripping book, and I've seen many people review it. And yeah, this I think is probably the most like quintessential thriller we've got in the rookie releases, so I'm excited to see how this one does. Next, we have The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This was another one that I wasn't really aware of. I'd seen a few people read it on BookTube and Bookstagram. I don't know anything about it other than a lot of people enjoy it, and it was part of the Goodreads Awards and was one of the highest voted books. So it got good reviews, and so like I said, because I don't know it, I'm excited to see how it does. And the last rookie book in this category is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly. This one I know is a real mixed opinion. There are a lot of people who really enjoyed it. There are a lot of people who thought it was dry. And so I wanted a controversial title in there in terms of like and dislike to see, again, how that would play out in the voting. I don't know a whole lot about this one either. I have a few people in my family who have read it, and again, mixed opinions. Some people enjoyed it, some people didn't. A lot of people had mixed emotions about it, but it did really well in the Goodreads Awards. That's it for the Rookie and Champions of the Mystery Thriller bracket. You have, starting now at the end of this video, 48 hours to suggest a title that you think belongs in this category. It can be a repeat of an author you've seen here, or it can be someone that I may have missed entirely. There are too many books to choose from, and that's the wonderful part about having you guys participate, is I want you to have a hand in crafting this competition. So again, you have 48 hours. The title suggestions expires on March 8th at 10 a.m. I also want to say that the next introduction video will be on March 9th. So again, this is a 48-hour voting period, but the next video won't come for around 72 hours, just to give you a heads up. So that's it for the Mystery Thriller bracket. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my BookTube channel. It really does help me out and let me know what you guys want to see. As always, a huge thank you to the friends and family who have readily supported me along this Book March Madness journey. It really does mean the world to me. And until we meet again, cheers.